Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. Peter, ever since last September, when Giorgia Meloni, the Italian conservative leader, was swept to power in the Italian general elections, we've had cause to speak very negatively of her. She's ostensibly a conservative. She has basically betrayed every kind of conservative principle one would have expected from an Italian leader, which is basically, Italians should address problems related to Italy and not worry about foreign policy, and particularly Ukraine, and which her colleagues, obviously the late Berlusconi, who his party is member of her coalition, as well as Salvini, Matteo Salvini, there's basically taken a view that what goes on in Ukraine is really nothing to do with Italy. Meloni has taken a very different view. She's been gung-ho, really gung-ho on Ukraine, meeting regularly with Zelensky, and of course Ursula von der Leyen, and she's second to none in breathing fire on Ukraine. But up until now, we'd at least thought, well, all right, but on other things, she's sticking to fundamental conservative principles. Doesn't look like it. She's now declared that she's going to greatly increase the number of essentially migrants coming from non-EU countries. And I want to just show you, this is a story from the Financial Times, which obviously, as the purest expression of the corporate cheap labor lobby, has just written a very favorable article on this apparent change of heart on the part of Meloni. It says, Italy's Giorgia Meloni opens the door to more workers from outside the EU, more workers from outside the EU. Not even, hey, well, let's bring in some Poles and Lithuanians. No, outside the EU. And then it goes on. Italy's right-wing coalition plans to sharply increase the number of foreign workers from outside the EU while continuing to crack down on irregular migrants. Notice how irregular migrants, these are illegal immigrants. They're trying to break into the country, but they're called irregular migrants.
Well, okay, so increase the number of foreign workers and then irregular migrants. What's the difference?
Well, I guess she means foreign workers.
I mean, for the Italian voter.
For the Italian, none. That's the thing. I mean, there she was, as the anti-migrant candidate, the one who was basically going to essentially make sure, Italy for the Italians, that basically Italians get first dibs when it comes to jobs. So that says Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's government this week said it would issue 425,000 work permits to non-EU nationals, non-EU nationals, between this year and 2025, which Rome said was part of its plan to promote legal immigration to fill gaps in the labor market. Now, the moment you hear about these gaps in the labor market, remember, Italy has an unemployment rate of 8%. So it's a very high unemployment rate. And again, whenever they say 8%, it's a hell of a lot more than that. So there's a lot of unemployed people in Italy. And says, this announcement followed repeated complaints from employers in various industries, including construction and tourism, about their acute difficulties in finding workers. And then the Bank of Italy has warned that a serious shortage of skilled workers, including in construction and IT, was threatening Italy's ability to carry out its ambitious 200 billion euro funded post-pandemic recovery plan. Now, whenever you hear this about the shortage of labor, reach immediately for your scotch, because that is an absolute crock. There is no such thing as shortage of labor. What there is a shortage of labor willing to work for nothing. Yeah, that's true. If you don't pay people properly, then there's a shortage of people willing to work for nothing. So whenever the corporations that suddenly say, oh my God, we've got this labor shortage, we don't have enough people in construction, not enough people in IT, not enough people in tourism. In other words, you want to pay them nothing. And who's going to work for nothing? Well, let's get them from outside the EU. We'll go to Bangladesh or go to Nigeria and Sudan and so on, and we'll bring them in. Now, a conservative leader such as Meloni would say, no, we want to make sure that Italians enjoy a good life and that they get decent pay. And we don't want those Italian jobs being given away to people from all over the world.
Well, I mean, if they really want to create a United States of Europe, which of course this is what has always been the agenda, without the permission of the populists, that's important to point out. Well, if you want to create a United States of Europe, why don't you rely upon European labor?
Exactly.
Kind of equilibrium. It's okay. There's an excess in Romania.
Right.
Come on over to Italy. Right. I mean, and then everybody gets a well-paying job. Everybody. Right.
That's right. Well, that's what's so stunning about this. It's not saying, okay, we're going to bring in Romanians and Bulgarians, countries that don't enjoy as high a standard of living as Italy, so we'll bring them in. No, it's coming from outside the EU. In other words, people who really are they'll be happy to be in the EU, work in Italy for, 3 years for the work permit, and then boom, on to Germany for some serious money. And you'd have thought Meloni would be against that, but then, there's a lot of things we might have thought about Meloni.
George, what was it, 425,000?
Exactly, yeah.
I wonder who came up with that number. Do you think it came out of Rome or it came out of Brussels?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Just good relations with Ursula.
Because our young, ambitious Italian here, she knows that she can fail. Because she's on the upward trajectory. Okay.
That's right. Exactly.
We got a place for you, young lady. We got a place for you. Don't worry.
That's right. Okay. Exactly. No, she will be amply rewarded because she will lose the next election. There's no question. But she'll be rewarded for essentially rendering the Italian conservatives just null and void. There won't be a problem.
And rendering a pan-populist agenda irrelevant.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Just take each one of them. Boop, boop.
That's right. Exactly. Because you're absolutely right. Because that was.
And tells everybody else.
That's right. And
we can buy you. We don't have to slur you. We'll buy you. And you know what? We'll take it.
You're exactly right. Because that was their fear, that there would be this pan-European populist movement. Obviously with Orban, then the Austrians. Maybe someone in Eastern Europe, but they don't really matter without Italy. Italy was the key, because if you can get the Italians on board, then it becomes a serious movement. And that's why there was such agitation leading up to those Italian general elections, because they thought, hey, if Italy is going to join this pan-European populist movement, then we've got a real problem on our hands. So that way, why it's so important to buy her off.
Meloni, they were so wrong about her because she was supposed to be the next Benito Mussolini, but she's actually the next Tony Blair.
That's very good. She was the next Benito. It turns out to be the next Tony. That's a good one, because I'm gonna use that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Under its new increased quota system, Rome plans to gradually increase the number of new worker permits granted yearly, reaching 165,000, that's yearly, while also expanding the categories of jobs for which foreign workers from outside the EU will be eligible. Prior to COVID-19 pandemic, Italy granted fewer than 31,000 work permits a year to migrant workers from outside the EU. So it's a really great thing that you got Meloni into power. Now it's a five-fold increase from what it was before Meloni. So thanks a lot.
So what did her followers, her voters vote for? This?
That's right. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, 31,000 to 165,000.
Yeah, that's right. That was the last.
I'm not good with math, but one number is big.
One is 5 times the size of the other. Yeah. That's and that's it. That's and this was the signature issue, which was migrants. I mean, that's what that's the whole thing. I mean, that's been the big issue in Italy, ever since that wonderful moment in 2011 when they decided to knock over Gaddafi after Berlusconi had signed an agreement with Gaddafi not to send any more migrants into Europe. So great, now we've got this this wonderful gift. This year, Rome plans to grant an additional 40,000 permits to the 82,000 already in the works. And then Meloni government says the quotas were set after talks with employers and unions to assess the genuine needs of the economy. So genuine needs, again, basically, how do we keep wage as low as possible? However, opposition politicians accuse the right-wing coalition of hypocrisy, given its leaders' historic hostility to foreign migrant workers. Because, of course, having given them this, they're saying that's not enough. Immediately, you got to give us more. Both Meloni, the leader of the Brothers of Italy, and her political ally Salvini have long railed against non-European migrants arriving in Italy, depicting them as an existential threat to the country. And then it says, and then we have this woman from the center-left party says the government of the right has capitulated. It's a very high rate, a bitter dose of reality for those who have built their political careers by demonizing immigration as a national security threat. And then Boldrini said right-wing parties slammed past proposals by the center-left to increase legal migration, describing it as ethnic replacement and an invasion of migrants. So she's saying, hey, you've basically completely capitulated. You've embraced our program. And then since coming to power, Meloni's government has tried to reduce the number of irregular migrants by cracking down on humanitarian groups. And then the Italian government has also pushed the EU to take stronger action to safeguard Europe's external borders, including promoting deals with North African nations to curb departures and facilitate repatriation. None of that, of course, happens because, of course, people just take the money and say thank you, and that'll do nicely. So, and then yet since the start of the year, nearly 70,000 migrants and asylum seekers have arrived by boat in Italy, compared to just under 31,000 irregular arrivals in the same period. Again, good thing she's in charge. In his statement, Rome said that some of the permits for workers in agriculture and tourism would be reserved for workers from countries that sign deals to counter irregular migration. You give them offer, again, thank you very much. That'll do nicely. And then among the skilled workers, Italy will welcome our electricians, plumbers, construction workers, nurses, bus drivers, hotel employees, mechanics, and fishermen. Now, they don't sound like skilled workers to me. I don't think Italy is short of fishermen. I mean, I that's last time I checked. Italy's, it's got fishermen, hotel employees. Italy is not short of hotels. I wouldn't have thought it'd be that difficult to find hotel employees for these hotels. So this is again just how do we have cheap labor?
It doesn't. There's different levels of competence. Electrician. You have to have a certain competence, but this misses the point. Why don't you pay electricians, plumbers, construction workers, nurses, bus drivers, hotel employees, mechanics, and fishermen a good wage?
Right. No, exactly, and they don't. And this is, of course, a racket. I mean, the moment you say, well, we'll increase the quota of foreign workers, so what you then do is you stipulate all the specifics to make sure that an Italian can't fill that job. So we have to go to Bangladesh to fill this position because no Italian can do this job. You can get easily an army of lawyers who can formulate the kind of a job vacancy to make sure that it has to be somebody from Bangladesh or Lagos who can fill it, and it can't be done by an Italian. All these jobs that they list here, these are all jobs that can be done by Italians, but they don't want to pay them properly, so they have to go somewhere else for these people.
Don't you think, George, here? I mean, because people are going to misunderstand us, obviously. So I want to get ahead of the shark. Okay, electricians, plumbers, construction workers, nurses, bus drivers, hotel employees, mechanics, and fishermen. Bangladesh needs them. Nigeria needs them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again,
Absolutely.
this is a neocolonial project. We're going to take all the people that are competent and keep you poor, and you live off of remittances.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, the country, you're basically, ruining your own population, because essentially you're driving down pay in your own country, but you're also ruining countries such as Bangladesh or Nigeria, because they need these people. They've invested in their education and training, and now they're going to go somewhere else. And instead of having a labor force, you're living off remittances. So you've now become essentially a kind of a parasitical economy. Instead of a productive economy, you're a parasitical economy. You're living off remittances coming from elsewhere. And again, the said remittances are not being invested in Italy to let Italian businesses thrive. They're being sent outside the country. Corporations make money, cheap labor. Ursula von der Leyen does well. Meloni does well. But nobody else does.
Yeah, well, it gets down to a really fundamental critique. I've always found really interesting how people on the right like to invoke, well, on the left too, how they play around with the word capitalism. It's fascinating to me. Because it's always emotive. Okay, it doesn't really, it's not a very deep thing to say. Either you're for it or against it. Okay, I don't know what that's really supposed to mean anymore. But what about having an economy that benefits people that live there? I mean, when you look at the disparity of wealth, and you look at we everything is now big pharma, big beer, big everything, big academia. Now, but those serve the interests of such a small group of people.
That's right.
And why don't we have an economy that serves the majority of people? Okay, and I think that you read these Wall Street rags, about profits, and patting this person on the back, he's tripled his bonus because of performance and all that. Well, maybe because you're basically working in a monopoly. Okay, it's not hard to make money when you're in a monopoly.
Well, that's right. And how have you increased profits? Well, you've increased profits by shedding your workforce and offshoring and basically
buying back your own shares.
Moving all your production overseas, and where it's much cheaper, and but you've done nothing for your own domestic force. And they say, oh, the company has done very well. So and again, you would have thought that a populist, which is the whole point of this, a populist would say, enough of this. We don't want the capitalists simply padding their own pockets. It has to be work for us. And if they're not willing to improve the lives of our people, then we're going to hit them. And there are all sorts of ways that we can hit them. Governments can say, we have the tools. But in this case, they're not willing to use the tools. They're willing to just, the Central Bank of Italy has given us a list of things that they want. Okay, yes, sir, we'll do whatever the Central Bank of Italy does.
Well, if you're not going to have economic nationalism, let me repeat, if you're not going to have economic nationalism, you will surrender the very existence of your nation state. It's inevitable.
Exactly. And so to me, it just seems that this creature, Giorgia Meloni, who immediately disappointed us by pursuing a policy that one would have thought was inimical to a kind of a conservative populist that she presented herself as being, by essentially throwing in her lot with Zelensky without ever explaining why she was doing that. And now you can see, hey, she's willing to betray one principle there. She's willing to betray all her principles. That's it. Fooled you. You voted for me. Now more fool you. Now I'm going to serve out my time, and then I'm going to go on, get a big job somewhere else.
But you just have to ask a very fair question. You said all what you said just to get into the revolving door of power and money. Right. Okay, so that you fooled us. Yeah, that's right. You did. Okay. Yeah. Just beyond words of disappointment. Okay, because what it does is it sends a chilling, and the intention is a chilling message that don't even challenge us. Okay, we can any one of you.
That's
okay?
right. That's right. And I think, you know, the Ursula von der Leyen and Josep Borrell are very, very happy about this essential collapse and disintegration of Italian populism, and therefore, you know, by implication, the European populist movement.
Everybody, you know, history, you know, basically there's nothing new ever happens. Okay, if you look at the very long history of the Roman Empire, there's a lot of glory, great battles, with a lot of institutions we still make references to and whatnot. But Rome came apart because its elites didn't believe in it anymore, and it just was overrun, almost without any resistance. It was just, and it exhausted itself. And this is exactly what the European Union is doing. It just exhausted itself. Okay.
Right. No, there's no question. I mean, the idea that a country with a very high unemployment rate decides we're going to start importing labor from outside the EU of in this kind of magnitude, and you know, these aren't specialized jobs. We went through the list of these jobs. You know, these are jobs Italians can do. This is a naked, cheap move by the cheap labor lobby. They've got this Meloni, you know, over a barrel, and they're just ramming it through. And this is, you know, it's really just deeply, you know, disappointing. But I think it was just expected. I mean, you know, somebody was willing to betray everything on one occasion. She's going to do it on others.
Yeah, she has a great career ahead of her.
She has indeed.
All right, everybody, that's our wrap for this Sunday. We'll be back tomorrow. This is Peter and George. We are The Gaggle. We're on Locals, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. Visit our store. George and I will reconvene tomorrow. And of course, Tuesday will be his first live stream of the
live stream, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Please join me. Come with comments, suggestions, criticisms. And then think about little Buddy, because Buddy says, look, I mean, I've betrayed all my principles all my life, and yet even so, I don't get any rewards. How is this fair? I don't know. It's a tough one. But you know, we're very grateful for all of your help and friendship and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve the technology, and above all, we can keep Buddy, you know, somehow free of this constant indignation. So remember, if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.